Hello everyone, my name is Vicki Zhang. I am Associate Professor teaching stream at University of Toronto. I'm in the Department of Statistical Sciences. So today the title of my presentation is Confronting Utilitarianism with Social Justice, Reflections on Embedded Ethics in Financial Education. So finance as a discipline is deeply rooted in utilitarianism. Much of the teaching material in the field presents propositions solely with a utilitarian point of departure. However, we all know the financial crisis in the past decade behooves the educators to look beyond the traditional neoclassical lens and confront the question of social justice in the context of financial systems. So in my course design and delivery, I aim to restore the ethicopolitical perspectives to the financial issues of our day that had been systemically depoliticized by industry interest groups. So in the past 6 years, I have embedded social justice and ethics education in 8 different courses in my institution through various different modes and techniques depending on the course-specific context. And based on my pedagogical practices focusing on embedded ethics, my solo reflections aim to understand the societal and institutional environment that often hinders the direct challenge of the neoliberal mainstream pedagogy in the field of finance and insurance. So my presentation today will start from there. I will then provide an overview of the various techniques I had experimented with to embed ethics in finance education, including some broad strategies for educators from other disciplines to consider. So traditional financial ethics education mostly focus on legality issues and professional standards. And even such incomplete ethics education is often provided by at post-graduation and provided by the industry or the profession itself. So without a distance that's often needed to genuinely investigate and critique ethics conundrum. I argue that it's high time we, the university, provide a kind of ethics education that's pluralistic in nature and gives emphasis to the public interest, not industry interest or profession's interest. Moreover, we need to broaden the scope of financial ethics education beyond the boundary of legality and professional standards. So what kind of topics do I have in mind? Here is a short sample list. From a theoretical point of view, students should understand the neoclassical roots of modern financial theories and its limitations. So neoclassical economics as an intellectual movement blurs the line between finance and natural science, as the financial world is built upon an underlying objective reality with true probabilities. As long as we have sophisticated math models, we'd be able to quantify everything perfectly. Students who are often if they're only well-versed in neoclassical financial theories, will acquire a level of hubris from their confidence in the perfect market, perfect rationality of agents, and boundless capacity of their math models, which can all be an illusion when confronted by the real world. Then from a practical point of view, as we're educating future professionals in the financial industry, students should be made aware of the many gray areas of financial practices, such as the excessive complexity in financial product design, moral hazard in the use of hedging and securitization, moral hazard due to the increasingly powerful computational capacities. Various forms of conflict of interest in finance and insurance is another very important topic, and there's so many different types of conflict of interest that are not illegal but highly unethical. There's also the important topic of regulation. So a long-held assumption of specialized financial program is that such programs are only responsible for cultivating technicians. Technicians don't have to concern themselves with broader societal issues, right? But in fact, a great number of financial and insurance regulators nowadays are drawn from the private sector itself. Why is that? Because the product design and risk management techniques have become so complex that an outsider regulator is considered unqualified to fully understand what the industry is doing. And meanwhile, financial and insurance regulation has been shifting from rules-based regulation to principles-based regulation, which heavily relies on companies' internal models to ensure solvency and public interest. So we're in fact educating not just back-office mathematicians, but also future financial regulators. So we can all agree that ethics should be a crucial part of education in specialized financial programs. So What's stopping us from doing it in strides? So there are some very real and unique structural challenges such programs may face. For instance, many specialized financial programs are developed in collaboration with the financial industry and professional organizations for a variety of reasons. Usually the external organizations offer credentialing exams that lead to the designations one needs to work in the industry ultimately. This makes them the de facto curriculum setters for financial education at university level. So the industry-led credentialing process also has a large impact on our students' mentality. So students often view such university programs simply as preparation for the industry credentials. They express a lower level of interest in subject matters less directly linked to the industry credentials. For instance, this is from a survey I conducted with my second-year insurance finance students. And we can see the chief motivations in choosing the major were all extrinsic. In the same survey, I also asked my students to tell me what they want this class to focus on. And 84% wanted to focus on tricks and shortcuts of professional exam. And the least popular answer was ethical issues around financial products and markets. So a key challenge is how to confront students' indifference to financial ethics education. So over the past 6 years, I experimented with a series of pedagogical strategies, which all fall under the big umbrella of what's now known as embedded ethics pedagogy. So embedded ethics aims to integrate ethical reasoning with a distributed pedagogy that introduce ethics directly into standard courses across the curriculum. So let me first offer a few examples of embedded ethics at work in my courses. I will discuss the advantage of such pedagogy as well. So there are quite a few courses I routinely teach. Some of them are heavily regulated by external financial professional bodies. Students may use these courses in their credentialing process. So my strategy in this kind of courses is to maximize the use of interstices in the technical curriculum, find these little gaps to make ethical points. This can involve using examples and case studies that teach the technical content, but also has an ethical underpinning. This can also involve student-centered activities that explore ethical gray areas. So for example, in the Intro to Financial Math course, I use case study of predatory lending, for instance, payday loans, to discuss interest theory, how to calculate compounding interest, accumulation of interest, discounting. Much of that discussion, mathematical discussion, are rooted in this case study of predatory lending. When teaching financial derivatives, I always provided case studies that showed financial derivatives can be a double-edged sword. They can indeed help firms hedge risks, but the same financial derivatives can be misused to create moral hazard and market volatility, even contributing to financial crisis. By using examples and case studies like this, the technical skills are taught as required, but they are taught in the context of ethical controversies. In my corporate finance course, I invited students to critique and debate part of the textbook designated by the industry credentialing body, for instance, on the topic of efficiency of capital market. So the finance textbooks chosen by the industry credentialing body tend to have a very clear neoclassical bent. So I asked the students in my class to do research outside the classroom to find counter-arguments to the classical theories they've learned from the textbook. We had debate teams in class to then argue the merits and shortcomings of the classical theories. Students were also asked to write a modified OPED article. What's a modified OPED article? That means the students need to write first with a believing mode and then a doubting mode, so they can provide reasons and arguments for both sides of the controversy. In this process, students actively seek views and evidence from different perspectives, and also they realize the limitation of the neoclassical financial theory. There are other student-led activities and assignments that embedded ethics as well. For example, in the Intro Financial Math course, I had these team-based projects that had students evaluate environmentally or socially beneficial bonds and loans. Last year, I also had students design their own socially beneficial bonds. And lots of my students are actually international students. Some of them are from the global south. So they actually proposed ways using bonds and loans to repurpose finance to help their struggling community. And this repurposing finance exercise, which I really just call it repurposing finance in my course, was to show students that what they learned have broader applications in the real world, and they can indeed find deeper purpose in their learning. Another course I routinely teach is Intro to Life Insurance Mathematics. It's always considered very dry, very difficult course, but I recognize that this course can actually be reorganized into one long arch of narrative. So I decided to use narratives and storytelling to embed ethics in this course. And when I was designing the narrative, I set the following goals for myself. At the very least, I want to provide an interesting, intuitive, and memorable concept map that link a large number of mathematical concepts. That can seem very daunting to second-year undergrad students who are taking this course. And a higher goal is to expose ethical issues along the way, provide students with a clear sense of relevance to the course materials, and moreover, an intrinsic purpose of learning. So I thought, okay, how do I give them a sense of purpose? First, I have to have a character they can relate to. Second, what's a better way to find meaning than helping someone in need, right? So I crafted a central character called Susie Lin, who is a visible minority, like many of my students, who is vulnerable in the sense that she's a single mother as well. She needs the expertise specifically acquired in this course to achieve the financial goal of her family, which was to find a life insurance policy most suited to her unique life situation, as well as being fairly priced. So I put all the math concepts on the drawing board, reordered them, created this overarching story script that's the central character's obstacle course. It ties together the numerous mathematical concepts covered in the course. It also highlights various of gray areas, ethical gray areas in the industry practices and this obstacle course. So students will have to go through this journey with Susie, assisting her using their newly acquired knowledge. Once I have the script down, I then worked with the theater department at my university to better deliver the narratives. We used a mixed media platform, including video clips, audio clips, still photos to tell these sub-stories in a big narrative. And like I said, students were encountering these ethical issues along the way as well, and they have to do some reflections in our course to talk about how these industry practices can be improved. As I'm using the small gap spaces in existing core courses, I do realize I have to create my own elective courses to put ethics and critical thinking at the center of the course. So I designed a fourth-year capstone seminar course on insurance market products and regulation. That's my personal specialty. So in this course, I sought to provide a systemic and holistic understanding of the industry and its socioeconomic impact. So to understand the ethical gray area of the industry, students have to first have very strong technical knowledge. The product designs and risk management has become so complex. And this course provided ample space to convey these technical content because we use the same industry software that the industry practitioners themselves use to dig deeper into many questionable financial and insurance applications in the real world. Students are required to write reflective comments on the readings every week. Towards the end of the course, students also need to submit a letter to their future selves, synthesizing ideas and thoughts, propose concrete actions to be taken in future study and professional work. So overall, I found the embedded ethics approach to be more effective than the traditional approach of offering a standalone course on ethics. The covert nature of exploring ethics as part of hands-on technical skill building helps motivate and engage students instead of turning them off, as often seen in the standalone, out-of-context mandatory ethics course. Specifically, I always provide concrete and hands-on case studies that demonstrate a technical aspect of an ethically dubious practice or techniques. So this is sort of my 3 steps of embedded ethics. And that first step is really crucial in a technical or math course because it serves the following purposes. First, it meets the students' expectation to acquire technical knowledge and skills from the course. Second, students feel really empowered when they can see into the black boxes or under the hood. Third, students are equipped with technical know-how to then understand the ethical issues in a thorough and nuanced way. And once they understand the technical dimension, I can then prompt students to discover the ethical dimension in the industry practices and guide students to postulate changes needed in the industry as well as in the regulations. And also instill in them this urgency for activism, both as a professional and as a member of the general public. So just to summarize, we're running out of time, a main objective of my pedagogical reform and social reflection is to inject social justice to a discipline that sees maximizing shareholder value as both the ultimate goal and the foundation of all the theories and practices. So embedded ethics as a practical and social framework has been tremendously useful in restoring this ethical political concern in consideration of financial matters, and also inviting students to be participants and interlocutors during that restoration process. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you hopefully in person soon. Thank you.